T-100 is the most unprecedented villain in the Terminator series, and the first simulated multi-core liquid metal Terminator created by Skynet. Belonging to the high-end prototype level, no matter how strong the physical attack, it cannot be completely killed. Its invincible regenerative ability makes it one of the most cold-blooded and ruthless hunters in film history, giving off a brutal, merciless, and invincible feeling. If the 800 series is a multi-purpose, heavy-armored hunter, then the T-100 can truly be called the ultimate silent assassin. Not only can it disguise itself as a carpet to infiltrate its target and complete its mission, but it can also mimic anyone and deliver a fatal blow before the imitator can even react. The next imitation could very well be you. T-1000's arms can transform into many highly lethal weapons, primarily blades. They can also become double hooks, steel needles, and even throwing weapons. The spear can also detach a small piece of metal from the hand for tracking. Or it has a high-end function that can separate a little liquid metal to invade the T-800 system, restarting a completely unusable T-800 for its own use. It also has a function that even Skynet fears: independent consciousness, capable of making decisions contrary to Skynet's. Therefore, Skynet dares not mass-produce the T-10 like the 800 series. The fate of the Terminator was predictable. It became a transitional prototype. Skynet applied its liquid metal research to the more advanced TX model, and the T-1000 became a short-lived product, ultimately being shelved. As the creator of the Terminator series, why was Skynet afraid of the T-1000? Once you understand Skynet's characteristics, you'll know the reason. In Terminator 4, there's a scene where Skynet is about to go live. The clip shows it desperately trying to protect itself from being destroyed by humans. Nominally, it's just a software system, representing AI's awakening, but it has a very large host and hardware structure. Therefore, the existence of these structures is essential for Skynet to function and control the entire world. The T-1000 and 800 series Terminators differ greatly in their CPUs. We can see that the 800 series has a small physical CPU with many. The small cube is precisely the CPU that controls it. Skynet has embedded many program instructions within it, controlling the T-800's behavior through the software system, and also making related hardware configurations. This CPU is a state-of-the-art model developed and produced by Cypress. Besides executing instructions, it also has read and write capabilities. This read and write capability means it can improve itself through self-learning and self-development. Personality and mindset. However, Skynet, in order to better control the T-800, limited its read-write capabilities. The goal was to ensure that the Terminator would only execute commands input by Skynet and would not awaken. Skynet feared that if the robot awakened, it would harm itself. If the Terminator counterattacked its mainframe, it would completely lose control. What Skynet wanted was control, invulnerability, and protection. So it wanted to firmly control every robot, ensuring they obeyed its commands. However, the biggest problem with the T-1000 series is its lack of control. The main reason is that its CPU is not a physical entity like the 800 series, but rather composed of a liquid molecular structure. Therefore, it has some autonomy and can even make decisions contrary to Skynet's. Although it mostly executes instructions output by Skynet, Skynet is very afraid of this model and dares not mass-produce it. Deploying only a few units would allow it to rely on the sheer number of T-800s allowed for overwhelming and control. If their deployment over a large area were to match the T-800 series in numbers, the T-800 series would be crushed in no time. This posed a significant threat to Skynet. Therefore, the fate of the T-1000 was not to be used extensively. There's a scene in the movie where the T-1000, upon its first appearance, was able to directly and accurately locate John Connor's adoptive parents. They even took out photos and searched everywhere for him. Under the protection of the T-800, Connor successfully escaped. The T-1000, however, returned to Connor's home, terminated his foster mother, and transformed into her. Even her voice was identical. A robot with the same characteristics. Why does it have such behavioral traits? Actually, it's related to its operating program and system. In fact, every time a Terminator is created, Skynet provides them with advanced hardware systems. The hardware incorporates numerous software functions to help them understand everything about the human world, such as analyzing the environment, recognizing human appearances, knowing geographical locations, and even performing voice imitation and recognition. These systems, coupled with their advanced features, enable them to exhibit normal human-like behavior, appearing indistinguishable from humans. However, to truly understand and comprehend humanity, the intervention of software systems is required. This is especially true after a failed pursuit or mission termination. The reason for this is the fact that he would return to Connor's house to wait for him was an exploitation of the fact that people return home. From a software system perspective, to help them better understand human social systems and human behavior, Skynet can be said to have instilled all known human knowledge into its central CPU. This includes, for example, knowledge of human sociology, medicine, anatomy, soldier training, and various tactics. The addition of these elements enabled the Terminator. The ability to seamlessly integrate into human society and quietly complete a mission without being detected is a detail in the film. When T-1000, impersonating John, makes a phone call to Conray inviting him home for dinner, T-800, realizing it's a trick, deliberately mentions the dog's name, hoping to fool T-1000. Realizing his plan has failed, T-1000 displays considerable emotion, angrily running to the dog. Go check his name and incidentally terminate his dog behavior. This behavior suggests he possesses more human emotions than the T-800 series, even displaying obvious joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness. The T-800, however, often fails to understand human emotions, even lacking the ability to laugh. A feature learned later, after a CPU rework, resulting in a stiff imitation. Compared to the 800 series, it has undergone numerous upgrades and improvements, especially in terms of functionality and performance. It completely surpasses the T-800. The addition of liquid metal also greatly enhances its combat power. In the first movie, the T-800 was crushed by a hydraulic press. In the second movie, the T-800 was pinned down by gears. However, these powerful physical attacks and equipment could not cause substantial damage to the T-1000. The main reason is that it can overcome hardness with softness. Liquid metal possesses a great deal of flexibility. Its deformation characteristics are also quite flexible. For example, it can easily pass through iron-plated doors. After being hit by bullets, the liquid metal automatically dissipates, even if the head is shot in half. It is not affected because it is full of liquid metal. These molecules can easily split and merge. Even if it is sliced off by a T-800 with an iron bar, it can transfer the damage very flexibly. The fluidity of liquid metal is too strong, and it has no fixed shape at all. A purely physical attack is ineffective against the T-100, but it's not entirely impossible. We can see several obvious weaknesses. In the film, there's a scene where a truckload of liquid nitrogen is poured on him, instantly freezing him and quickly rendering him immobile. He struggles to move forward, only to tear himself to pieces. This demonstrates that sufficiently low temperatures can freeze him. Continuous output or placing it in a liquid freezer would completely disable its mobility. T-800 fired another shot, hitting its body. The frozen liquid metal instantly exploded, scattering everywhere. If some of it could be transferred away at this moment, its combat effectiveness and integrity would be severely limited. Another characteristic is that the more liquid metal separates from its body, the more its performance is affected. Therefore, he can only conjure a small portion of something, mostly maintaining structural integrity. At most, he can only produce 2 melee weapons. Extreme high temperatures will severely affect him. The ice melts at the temperature of the molten iron and reassembles, but its performance is clearly malfunctioning. In the third version, there are 2 details that show this. On the iron plate, he walks on it, and the small figure involuntarily replicates itself while walking on it. Iron.